The Knights Templar was the elite fighting force of the medieval church. These warriors who dedicated their lives to God were known for their unwavering bravery in battle and their strict adherence to a code of conduct that made them almost mythical figures of the Middle Ages. But what really set them apart from other medieval soldiers? Was it their special weapons or their religious convictions, or something else entirely? Today we will delve into the world of these legendary warriors and explore the deadliest secrets of the Knights Templar combat tactics that made them one of the most feared fighting forces of their time. The origins of the Knights Templar can be traced back to the year 1118, when Pope Urban II established the Order of the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, with the purpose of protecting pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. However, as the order grew in power and numbers, their role soon expanded to include military campaigns against non-Christian forces. And this is where their combat tactics come into play. Templars were trained from an early age to be ferocious fighters and were taught how to use a variety of weapons and engage in different combat styles. One of their most notable characteristics was their use of the two-handed sword. Unlike other medieval knights who typically used a sword in one hand and a shield in the other, Templars were trained to wield a long and heavy two-handed sword with deadly precision and power. This allowed them to deliver devastating blows to their opponents while remaining protected by their shields. It's no wonder then that the two-handed sword became a symbol of the Templars and their fearsome reputation. But the Templars' prowess in combat wasn't limited to just wielding a sword. They were also skilled horsemen and were trained in the art of mounted combat. In fact, mounted assaults were a key part of the Templar fighting style. When charging into battle, the Templars would ride on horseback, wielding their swords and shields in perfect unison. This allowed them to overpower their enemies quickly and efficiently, catching them off guard and delivering crushing blows before they even had a chance to react. The combination of heavy cavalry charges and the shock tactics used by the Templars made them a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. Another aspect of Templar combat tactics that made them so effective was their use of psychological warfare. The Templars were well aware of the power of fear and intimidation and used it to their advantage. Before going into battle, they would often make a show of their strength and ferocity, roaring and waving their weapons in the air to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. This, combined with their reputation as ruthless killers, made the Templars even more terrifying to behold. Moreover, the Templars were known for their unwavering discipline and obedience. They took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience and were trained to put the mission above all else. This meant that they were willing to go into battle without hesitation, no matter how dangerous the odds, and to follow orders without question. This level of discipline and obedience allowed them to work together seamlessly in battle, carrying out complex maneuvers with precision and speed. Furthermore, the Templars were not only ferocious fighters, but also highly trained and disciplined individuals. They were required to be literate, which was unusual for medieval soldiers, and were taught to read and write in Latin. This allowed them to communicate effectively with each other and with their superiors, which was essential for coordinating their attacks and following orders. Additionally, the Templars were trained in various martial arts, including sword fighting, archery, and horse riding. They learned how to fight on both offense and defense, and were taught to use a variety of weapons, including the mace, spear, and shield. This versatility made them a formidable fighting force, capable of adapting to different situations and enemies. However, despite their many skills and abilities, the Templars were not invincible. In fact, they suffered many defeats throughout their history, particularly during the Crusades. One of the most famous battles in which the Templars fought was the Battle of Hattin in 1187, in which they suffered a decisive defeat at the hands of the Muslim forces under the leadership of Saladin. Despite being outnumbered, the Templars charged into battle with their usual ferocity, but were ultimately overwhelmed by the sheer number of their opponents. This defeat was a major setback for the Crusaders and had a profound impact on the Templars' reputation as invincible warriors. Despite their defeat at the Battle of Hattin, the Templars continued to fight in the Holy Land until 1192, when King Philip II of France accused them of attacking his royal convoy and seized their property in France. Over the next few decades, The order's strength and influence declined until it was finally dissolved by Pope Clement III in 1312. In modern times, the Templars are often portrayed as fearless warriors who went undefeated in battle. However, this portrayal is not entirely accurate, as the Templars were actually defeated several times throughout their history. The idea of the Templars as invincible warriors is likely a product of their reputation for bravery, discipline, and skill in combat. Their ability to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies and their commitment to the mission made them seem almost superhuman to their contemporaries. And this image has only been reinforced in popular culture in recent years. It's important to remember that the Templars were real people with real strengths and weaknesses. They were not invincible, but they were undoubtedly one of the most effective fighting forces of their time. Their combat tactics, which included the use of the two-handed sword, mounted assaults, and psychological warfare, made them a force to be reckoned with on the battlefield. Their unwavering discipline and obedience, combined with their skill in martial arts and literacy, made them highly trained and effective warriors. Although they suffered defeats, such as at the Battle of Hattin, their legacy as brave, disciplined, and skilled fighters lives on. But what do you think? What's your favorite thing about the Templars? And what do you think was their greatest accomplishment? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about the Templars, check out our other videos. We have plenty of content about these fascinating warriors. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. And we'll see you in the next one. And now for a little behind-the-scenes fun. We recently held a poll asking our subscribers to choose the topic for this video. And let me tell you, the response was overwhelming. With nearly 15,000 votes cast, it was clear that there was a lot of interest in the Templars and their brutal tactics. The competition was fierce, with other historical topics like samurai and Viking raids coming in strong. But in the end, it was the Templars who came out on top. So a big thank you to everyone who voted, and special shout out to those of you who suggested this topic. Your passion for history is truly inspiring, and if you're still not convinced the Templars were the most brutal warriors of the Middle Ages, just check out our video on the Mongol army. You won't regret it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.